Hi there, let's be real. Most of us were never taught how to think about money the right way. We were told to get a job, work hard, save what we can, and maybe, if we're lucky, we'll be comfortable one day. But what if comfort isn't the goal? What if true, lasting abundance, life changing wealth is actually much closer than we think? And the only thing standing between us and it is the way we think. What if? Today, I want to talk to you about something that has transformed my life, my business, and the lives of many people I've worked with. And that is the wealth mindset shift. That's right, the wealth mindset shift. This isn't just about money, it's about how we rewire our thinking so wealth starts chasing us instead of the other way around. Did you know that wealth starts in your mind long before it shows up in your bank account? What if the only thing keeping you from financial abundance is the way you've been taught to think? And what if you could train your mind to spot opportunities like a millionaire does? So, are you ready? Let's dive into this. Let's get into it. You want to start by shifting from scarcity to abundance thinking. For a long time, I thought like a lot of people do. There's never enough, right? There's never enough money, never enough time, never enough resources, and maybe never enough connections like people you might know in the right places and so on. Just in case you didn't know, that's scarcity thinking. It keeps so many people stuck in a loop, working harder, saving more, and still feeling like they're behind. But guess what? When I began to shift my thoughts to abundance, when I started asking the right questions, for example, how can I create more instead of what am I lacking? Or how can I start a business with what I have? When I started asking those questions, things began to change. The other day, I read about a lady who was a talented candle maker. She knew how to make some of the best candles, right? She was running a small local business. For years, she told herself she couldn't go online. It was too risky, too techy, too expensive. Then one day, after watching a talk on abundance thinking, she decided to give it a shot. She built a small online store. She started small, no ads, no fancy marketing, right? Just her story, her products, and a belief that more was possible. Within 1 year, her online business sales quadrupled. She went from barely scraping by to building a thriving brand. What was the difference? She stopped thinking small. She believed more was possible. That's the power of shifting to an abundance mindset. This next shift, or this next mindset shift, is huge. It's embracing a growth mindset in financial life. It's the belief that your financial situation is not fixed, that it can grow and evolve as you go. People with a growth mindset don't say things like, I'm just bad with money, or I'll never get out of debt. Instead, they ask, what can I learn? How can I grow from this? Let me tell you a story, and this one is personal. My husband and I started our business with a credit card loan, our home care business. We didn't have deep pockets. We didn't have investors. We didn't know people in high places. We had faith and a willingness to learn. We made mistakes, for sure, plenty of them. But we never saw those mistakes or challenges or failures as reasons to quit. Instead, we saw them as tuition in the school of success. We believe that setbacks are setups for growth. You stop fearing failure and start using it as a fuel, period. Another important shift is shifting from consumer to investor mentality. This one is huge. You know, we are all consumers. We have to consume, we have to buy something. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying the money you've earned or worked hard for. But the real shift happens when you go from spending money on things, quote unquote things, to investing in things that grow. Some years back, a friend at church told us how his son, or their son, was in college. He was an undergrad. So he was still very young. He made a bold decision. Instead of buying a car, he opted for his first rental property. Imagine that. His friends thought that wasn't cool, right? That wasn't cool. But he rented that same property to fellow students and some of those friends. And guess what? He used the cash flow for his living expenses. That boring decision, or that not so cool decision, was the beginning of his financial freedom. 30 years ago, I attended a Robert Kiyosaki. I attended his seminar. My husband and I attended his seminar in Virginia. He told us how he wanted to buy a Corvette. But instead of using that money to buy the car that he wanted, he used the money to buy a storage unit and then used the proceeds from the storage unit to buy his car. And I was like, this is how the wealthy do it. Wow. That was a huge aha moment for me. An investor looks at every dollar like a seed. And he will ask the question like, where can I plant this seed to multiply it? That's the investor mindset. You also want to transform your mind to start thinking like millionaires do. They don't just think about what they're going to spend today. They think about how today's decision will shape the next 5 years. They think in terms of opportunity cost. Not can I afford this, but what will it cost me if I don't invest this money somewhere smarter? They are okay with waiting. They are okay with skipping the latest gadgets or vacations now for a bigger payoff later. This is where delaying gratification comes in. It's not about deprivation. It's about making choices today that your future self will thank you for, will be proud of. But what happens for most people is this. And I came across this concept called the Parkinson's law. There are different aspects to this law, but the one that I want to talk about is where he says expenses rise to meet your income. Your expenses rise to meet your income. Yeah, that is where as soon as we get a pay raise or the business makes a profit, our expenses increase. The expenses rise to meet the income. We're already thinking of the next car, the next home. This is not a millionaire mindset. We have to use that money as a seed. When you shift your mind to think like a wealth builder, you stop chasing money and start creating it. How about resilience and perseverance in wealth building? Let's be honest. The road to wealth is not always smooth. There are bumps, unexpected bills, setbacks, challenges you never thought of. People who doubt you, even your loved ones. But wealth-minded people don't quit when it gets hard. They regroup, they recalibrate, they come back stronger. I remember when during the early years of our business, there were months where we didn't know how we'll make payroll, how we'll pay our staff. But we didn't give up. We learned. We adapted. And now we run a successful home care agency that served thousands of families and employed thousands of workers. Resilience isn't optional on the path to wealth. It's required. Now, you want to hear something crazy? Your brain has something called reticular activating system. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. Is a RAS for short, RAS. It filters what you pay attention to based on what you believe, what's on your mind, your desire. So if you believe that money is hard to come by, guess what? Your brain will block out every opportunity that could bring it to you. But if you start telling your brain to look for abundance, saying things like, there are opportunities everywhere, you start seeing them. It's like when you decide you want to buy a car, a red car, and suddenly you start seeing red cars everywhere. The opportunities were always there. You just weren't trained to see them. Your brain wasn't trained to see them. Think about the founders of Uber. They didn't invent transportation. They just saw a gap that others ignored. That insight turned it into a $1 billion company, right? $1 billion company. What gap do you see in your life, in your financial life? What gap do you see in your community, in your industry? That could be the ticket to your wealth. What gaps do you see? I would like to hear from you. What mindset shift has made the biggest difference in your life or in your financial life? Or what's one belief about money you're working on? Drop a comment below. Share your story. It could inspire someone else to start their shift. And if this video has helped you, it's inspired you in some way, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs a fresh perspective on money. So are you ready to shift your mindset and unlock the wealth you deserve? I'd love to help you create a personalized strategy to rewire your thinking, to spot opportunities, wealth building opportunities, and step into the financial life you know was meant for you. The financial life you desire and that you deserve. Click on the link below and schedule your free 30-minute consultation with our expert coaching team. We'll dive into steps you can take to begin creating wealth and abundance in your life. Don't let another day go by being stuck in survival mode. Let's start your wealth transformation journey right now.